Hi everyone, welcome back to Neurotic Mom Bakes. I'm going to be showing you a basic, no-fail sourdough bread recipe. I hope you've checked out my tutorial on getting the sourdough started going. That was posted at least a week ago, and hopefully you've done at least your 7 days. Go back and check it out for all the information, but once you've got your starter ready to go, we are ready to start with a sourdough loaf. Now, just to talk about sourdough, there are many different methods and levels. Some require really fancy equipment like proofing baskets and Dutch ovens, and some require kneading, some don't. I have checked out so many recipes and I've tried at least 10 of them, and I've kind of found the one that's going to be a no-fail for beginner bakers with sourdough, which I kind of still am. But the main ingredients in sourdough are all the same. You need a starter, you need water, you need flour, you need salt. Some add a little sugar, some add some oil. I've just tweaked and through trial and error found the recipe that I think will work for all of you, and you'll have success with this one. So the only equipment that you do need to invest in is a scale. For sourdough, the measurements do need to be pretty exact. I found this at Walmart for less than $10. So you do need the scale. You don't need a fancy one. Well, yeah, let me go through this recipe and show you how to, if you've never used a food scale before, let me show you how. So you're just gonna turn it on. You're gonna wanna get it to grams. Over here, you can push this button and it'll change to kilograms or ounces and pounds. You want grams for this one. Once you've turned it on and it's to the gram setting, you're gonna place the bowl on, and then you're going to press the reset button again so it goes back to 0 and it's not counting the weight of the bowl, okay? There we go. All right, so we've got our starter. If you're going to do sourdough, the night before you need to feed your starter. Either if it's on the counter or in the fridge, you need to pull it out and feed it the night before, leave it on the counter, and then the next morning, the day you're making your bread, you feed it again and wait 2 to 3 hours, and let me show you the test you do to make sure it's ready to go. You just need a little bit of water, and I'm gonna just get a little bit of the starter, and if it floats, it's ready to go. If it sinks to the bottom, you need to wait a little bit longer after feeding, or you need to feed it again in a few hours. So we know this is ready to go, and let's start with this recipe. You need 150 grams of the starter. Now remember, sourdough does not work well in metal bowls. Make sure it's plastic or glass. And you're gonna weigh out 150 grams of the starter. There's 100, just go a little at a time because grams are so, if it's off by 1 or 2, it's fine. See, I got 153, that's okay. Don't forget that after you use it, you need to take a little bit out and refeed it again. Okay, now we're going to put in 25 grams of vegetable oil. Oh, don't forget to reset it to 0. And 25 grams of oil. Okay, now you need 480 grams of all-purpose flour. Set it back to 0. There we go. It's about 4 cups. The other thing I should mention is the start to finish of a sourdough loaf is at least 15 to 24 hours. It's not like regular bread. You can't do this all in one afternoon. I usually start mine on the evening before, and then it'll be ready to bake for like lunchtime the next day. So just be aware of that. It's a long process. Because you're working with natural yeast, it's a lot slower to rise, and it still needs the 2 rises like a basic bread recipe. Sorry, I'm going slow, but I just want to get these measurements exact. Okay, there we go. Last thing you need is some salt. I put in 8 grams of salt. Set it back to 0. There we go. You need 260 milliliters or grams of the water. Now we're done. Put this away. Now, you're just going to do a rough stir to get them loosely combined. Also, sourdough is messy. You're gonna get messy. Your hands are going to get sticky. In fact, I'm gonna move that out of the way. So I took all my rings off for this because you're gonna get your hands down in there. Okay, once you've got everything roughly combined, you're going to get in there with your fingertips and just kind of press it all together until there are no longer bits of flour. It's really sticky. It's supposed to be sticky. Just kind of pull it up. You can see there's some bits of flour in there. Just kind of work with the dough until all those little bits are combined with the flour. See, I told you it's very sticky and messy. That's okay. It's supposed to be. There's more liquid content in sourdough than regular yeast bread. Okay. Now, this dough needs to rest for 30 minutes just on your counter. Okay, just like that. Just try to pull the excess off your fingers. And then after it rests for 30 minutes, we'll come back and I'll show you the next step. Okay, we are ready for the next phase of our sourdough bread loaf. I've let this dough rest for about 30 minutes on my counter. I have another glass bowl prepped and I'm gonna spray it with some cooking spray. We're not gonna put any flour on the surface. You don't wanna add any extra flour in here. It's going to be sticky. However, a helpful tip, if it's too sticky for you to handle, get your hands wet. It's okay to have some wet hands and a few extra drops of, I'm going to do that right now. Shake off the excess, and we're going to knead this for just like a minute, 25 kneads. And if it starts to stick again, just get your hands wet again, which it will. It's supposed to be sticky, but we're just kneading it just a little bit and forming a smooth ball of dough. And we're going to be ready for the first rise. Now, this will take probably 6 hours on your countertop. I'm just gonna get them wet one last time just to form the smooth ball that I want. Now, if you want to have a more developed flavor, a sour flavor, so after the 6 hours, you could be ready for this next step. But what I like to do is I will let this rise on my countertop for 4 to 6 hours until it's about double in size, and then I put it in my fridge overnight, still covered in plastic. So I'm gonna get some plastic wrap. And the warmer the place that you find, the faster it will rise. Now, if you were really ambitious, you could make a loaf of sourdough if you got up really early in the morning and wanted to eat it late at night. Otherwise, it's going to be an overnight process. Okay, so I usually stick this in my windowsill. Let it rise to double, and then I put it in my fridge because you'll get more of that sourdough flavor. Okay, here is my sourdough loaf after it rose for about 5 hours last night, and then I put it in the fridge overnight. And you can see it's about double in size. It just, when it's natural yeast like this, it just takes so much longer. Okay, so what you're gonna do now So you're gonna punch it. You're gonna punch it down and pull it away from the sides. Now, at this stage, you can use a little bit of flour, just a little bit. So at this stage, all you're gonna need maybe just 10 or 15 times. But what you're doing is you're forming, you wanna form that tight ball of dough. So I'm just kind of pulling the outside in, kind of making a knot at the top. Okay, because you want a nice round ball of dough. The tighter you can do it, the more it will hold its shape while you're baking. Now I'm gonna get a cookie sheet. Parchment paper works really well. And then I'm going to, if you wanna get your hands wet to make sure it's easiest to handle, I'm gonna roll this over and just set it down. And now we're ready for the second rise. This won't go in the fridge. Okay, so now I'm gonna get a piece of plastic, and I actually like to spray it just lightly, just so it doesn't totally stick, and we're just lightly gonna press that on just so it doesn't get crusty on the top while it's rising again. So now it's going to go for its second rise. So for this step, I like to do this in the morning. I'll pull it out of the fridge and do the second rise so that by afternoon it's ready to eat for lunch or dinner. I'm going to put it in a warm spot. The warmer it is, the faster it will rise. Okay, so now you can see it has risen significantly and spread out a little bit. Now I'm going to make some cuts in the top. I have this pen blade, but you can use a knife. It's kind of tricky, it's kind of temperamental. Just, you want to slice it. Just, this gives it, as it expands, if you don't have these cuts, it'll explode. But if you do this, it just releases some of the pressure. There we go. Try to handle it as little as possible because you don't want it to deflate. There we go. Okay, this will go into a 450-degree oven, about 40 minutes, just depending on your oven. You're going to want a nice golden brown color on top, and if you pick up the loaf and knock on the bottom, it'll sound hollow. That's how you know it's done. All right, I have pulled this out of the oven, and I forgot to mention, this is really important, it goes in a 450-degree oven for 15 minutes, and then you're going to turn it down to 400 degrees and bake it 20 to 25 more minutes until it's nice and golden brown, and when you tap on the bottom, it sounds hollow inside. It'll feel pretty firm on the bottom. So there you have it. I hope you're not intimidated by sourdough anymore. I hope you'll give this a try. If you want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe to my channel.